Do you want bigger arms and shoulders? Let me guess you do. And I know you do because everyone wants bigger arms and shoulders. So this is my 45-minute arm and shoulder workout that you can smuggle into a training week. It's quick, it's difficult, but it's super effective. Let's get into it. So we're training arms. Why would you do an arm-only day? Ultimately, at the end of the day, what you hit first gets hit hardest. So if there's a particular area that you want to grow, there's absolutely no reason why you can't start with arms. So this is a hammer curl. It's a neutral grip curl. And the reason we want to do a neutral grip curl is there's this muscle underneath your biceps called your brachialis. So it's this muscle here. And if we're doing a neutral curl, that brachialis gets biased. The bicep gets hit as well, so does the forearm, but the brachialis gets biased. And this muscle, when it gets bigger, pushes up your bicep. So your bicep appears bigger. So this is why I think in every program we should have some sort of underhand or neutral grip variation. I'm doing a warm-up set for biceps here, and I think even for biceps we should always do warm-up sets. I think a warm-up set is just an absolute necessity. People who do warm-up sets perform better than people who don't do warm-up sets. So even for something like even an isolation lift, like a curl, would lend itself to having a warm-up set. Not really counting it. It's a very easy weight for me, but the point is just to get some blood in the target tissue. And then this is an antagonist superset. So we're supersetting biceps and forearms with triceps. Exercises are not particularly challenging from a cardio point of view. And the muscle, there's no muscle overlap, so we can pair them together. So what I'm doing here is kind of an unusual exercise. This is a behind the neck cable press, which I found is amazing for the long head of your tricep. And it's just so good for shoulder health because of the range of motion that you go through. I would suggest doing this at a higher rep range though, because some behind the neck stuff can be a little bit iffy if you go really heavy, but there's nothing wrong with doing sets of 15 to 20. Again, this is just a warm-up set. Something I like to do after I reach failure on the concentric with a hammer curl is to just do some one arm at a time cross body hammer curls. And even if you do some bullshit reps, some hip thrusting, some partials, whatever it is, just squeeze as much as you can out of the muscle of your forearm and your bicep. Really cool. Something to try, just squeezing a little bit more volume at the end of the set. We're going to pair this with a behind the neck press. There's not much overlap here, or any overlap I think with muscles, so it shouldn't affect performance too much. Just giving myself a second to breathe, and then we'll get into when an exercise lends itself to this, there's nothing wrong with doing a few so-called lengthened partials at the end of your set. So you reach failure and then do some partial reps in that lengthened range. So here, my triceps and my delts are most stretched. So lengthened partials there makes a lot of sense. Other exercises where this might be applicable, any sort of pulling exercise. So we do some lengthened partials, and you can see my lat is still contracting a little bit there. And something like a row or a pull down or anything with a cable. Nothing wrong with throwing in a few partial reps at the end to squeeze as much as you can out of a set as possible. Okay, we're moving on to a barbell curl. We've done one exercise where I'm curling with my wrist in a neutral position to bias the brachialis and the brachioradialis, this muscle of your forearm. So you need to hit your whole arm, guys, okay, not just the bicep. But this is just a bread and butter movement for the biceps. I'm going pretty heavy on this. This 35 kilos, like 75 pounds, probably in the 8 to 12 rep range. I think I did that conversion right. And I'm not curling in the squat rack, even though there are squat racks behind me. There's a free rack there, and 2 free racks behind me, okay? So I am not curling in the squat. And there's a free rack here, okay? There's a lot of racks in this gym, so if somebody needs a rack, I will move, just saying. Whew. So now I'm going to try and match what I did on the previous set. So I hit 11. Rep range is 8 to 12. We want to be in a similar rep range. If I could get 11, that probably means I pussied out on the first set. Putting it in the logbook. Gotta track your workouts, bros, else you don't know if you're getting stronger and getting bigger. So next up, we've got a good old-fashioned tricep pushdown. And you don't need to be fancy, guys. Nothing wrong with the basics. Tricep pushdown, I've been doing them for like 5 years. How I like to do this is I like to use a straight bar and I like to go thumbless grip. This combination tends to feel really good on my wrists and my elbows because we can go pretty heavy on this exercise. So you don't want your elbows, like pain in your elbows, to be a limiting factor. This is what I found works for me. There's loads of different ways to do this exercise. You can use a rope, you can use a cambered bar. Experiment with what works for you and what doesn't piss off your elbows. Triceps are pretty well leveraged to lift in this position, so it feels really good. And this is also a rotating bar. So having a straight bar that rotates in your hands as your wrists move feels really good. This is just a warm-up set, just to get some blood in my elbows, get me ready for heavy lifting. Okay, it's pretty heavy. The rep range is like 8 to 15. So a lateral raise variation that I really like, just seated on a bench. Find with the stability of the bench we can go a little bit heavier, but a little bit of variation in general is probably a good thing. Biggest tip I would say here is that if that's the end range of motion where the dumbbells are furthest away from our center of mass, it's really difficult. You're resisting gravity a lot at this point. When you can't get to here, there's nothing wrong with just banging out partial reps at the bottom. Use a little bit of momentum, swing. Your lateral delt's still working hard, particularly because it's fatigued. This muscle cannot get enough volume. It's probably the single most aesthetic muscle in the body. This lateral delt that gives you kind of that rounded shoulder look. So absolutely nothing wrong. We're just throwing in partial reps at the end. Get a little bit more volume out of them. They recover really quickly. You could probably hit this muscle like every day or definitely every other day. So partial reps, goated. Last exercise of the workout. This is a Lu Raise or a Lu Lateral Raise, named after legendary Chinese Olympic weightlifter Lu Jiajun, who would do this for delt hypertrophy, but also just for shoulder health because the overhead mobility demands of weightlifting are so insane. Shout out weightlifters, I am not cut out for that shit. If we think about the biomechanics of this, the function of the lateral delt, the side shoulder muscle, is to abduct and adduct the shoulder, or the humerus, the bone in the upper arm. So all of this range of motion is active range of motion for the delt. So this is like a super arm lateral raise. People call it round the world, Lu Raise, whatever. It's all the same shit. But it's taking your lateral delt through a very big range of motion. Probably not quite the full range of motion, because the full range of motion would be something like that, like the massive stretch, but pretty much the full range of motion. So how you do this? I like to have the dumbbells in front of me. Lou used to do this with plates, with like 10 kilo plates in each hand. I'm not quite that strong, this is 8 kilos. But dumbbells work absolutely fine. You can use plates, you can use dumbbells, whatever. Right here, and then. So I'm going to do one more set, but before you leave, if you want this workout, quick and easy, really effective 6 exercise arm and shoulder workout, I will leave the whole workout in the description of this video. Also, if you want to work with me, I do one-on-one coaching. You can go from skinny fat to looking like you lift in 6 months working with me. If that's something you're interested in, you can apply for coaching in the description as well. And until then, I'm going to finish my workout.